In the last lesson, we downloaded some assets from FAB Asset Library and then we took some time to place them in our scene. In this lesson, we're going to bring in some more assets into the scene and then place them in our background because right now our scene kind of looks boring. Okay, so let's begin. Now, before we actually bring in those assets, there is something that I need you to know. If I'll enlarge this window, you can see that we still have these weird shadows on our surfaces. In the last lesson, I briefly explained that how you can get rid of these weird shadows by using a console command. But the problem is that whenever you restart Unreal Engine, these weird shadows reappear on your assets for some reason. So of course you can type in that console command again, r.raytracing.shadows.enable two decided geometry and then spacebar and then press 0. You can see by typing in this console command, you can get rid of these weird shadows. But still, it is pretty annoying that whenever you restart your project, they reappear for some reason. So I'm going to show you a way around of this thing. First of all, I'm going to just copy this console command, r.raytracing.shadows, enable two-sided geometry. I'm just going to press Ctrl A and then press Ctrl C to copy this command. And then I'm going to close Unreal Engine. I'm going to go into the config folder of this project and I'm going to open this file, default engine. Okay. I'm going to scroll down and down here, I'm just going to press Ctrl V to paste this console command and then press equal on the keyboard and simply type in 0. Okay. I'm going to save this file, close this one and reopen the project. I'm going to go back into my content folder and simply open this level. And as you can see, boom, all those weird shadows are gone. You no longer need to type in that console command whenever you reopen your project. Okay. One final thing that I want to do in here before I actually bring in those fab assets is that I want to tweak the parameters of the materials on these mountains. So I'm going to simply select this mountain and open the material instance. And just like we tweaked the brightness, saturation, and contrast in the previous lesson for these assets, we're going to do the same thing with these mountains as well. So what I'm going to do in here is to check all these boxes. Okay. And let's tweak these parameters. Okay. So I'm going to fractionally increase the red value and give this thing a little bit of saturation as well. And then I'm going to increase the contrast. Let's see how this actually looks like. Yeah, I think this thing came out pretty good. Perhaps the red channel or the contrast is a little bit too much. Let's see. I think the contrast is perhaps a little bit too much. So I'm gonna fractionally bring this thing down. No, I think either the red value or the saturation is perhaps a little bit too much. So I'm gonna bring those values down. And yeah, I think it looks pretty okay at this point. Maybe just a little bit of contrast. Let's see. I think it looks good. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for this one as well. I'm going to select this one and open up this material, check all these boxes. And I'm going to increase the red value. And maybe give this thing a little bit of saturation. Let's see what happens if we increase the contrast. Maybe just about there, perhaps a little bit more. Yeah, I think this looks good. Maybe a little bit more contrast. Yeah, I think this thing looks good. I'm gonna now select this one as well. Perhaps maybe give this thing a little bit more brightness. There we go. Yeah, I think this thing looks good. Of course, we can tweak this thing later as well, but I think it already looks pretty good. Okay, so yeah, I think now it's time to bring in some assets from FAB Asset Library. So what I'm gonna do in here is to open FAB Asset Library. And I'm gonna type in mission to Minerva. Now, this is actually a project created by Kitbash 3D, which involves some really high quality sci-fi assets that we can use in our scene. So I'm going to open up this one. And as you can see, there are several sci-fi assets that we can use in our project. Okay. The credit goes to Kitbash 3D for making these assets available for free. So I'm going to go ahead and select the personal license and click on add to project. I'm going to check this box, press accept, and it's going to take some time to download and add this thing into the project. But I'm going to cancel this because I already have this asset pack downloaded in a separate project. So I'll just copy it from there. I'm going to minimize Unreal Engine and I'm going to open up this project, go into the content folder and just copy this mission to my Minerva folder. Okay. It's about 4 gigabytes. I'm going to press Control C and open my Unreal project, go into the content folder and paste it right here. Let's go back into Unreal. And if I'll go back into my level and go into the content folder, you can see that now we have this new folder called as Mission to Minerva. This is exactly the same folder that we just copied from the other project. I'm going to open up this folder and I'm going to go into the actors folder. And as you can see here, we have several assets to choose from. And these assets are actually in the form of blueprints. You can also go into geometries, and in here you can find these assets in the form of geometries as well. But I'm just going to go into actors and let's see if we can find something useful for our scene. Let's open up this one and see what it looks like. I'm going to dock this window in here and I'm going to go back into viewport, and you can see that we have this really high quality asset that we can use for our scene. So I'm just going to close out this one and go back into my level, and I'm just going to drag this thing. Maybe first let me hide the landscape. I'm just going to drag this thing and drop it just about there. Okay, and as you can see, it looks pretty huge at this point. So I'm going to now open my camera preview as well. Let's go into the content folder, go into the level sequence, open the level sequence, open the camera preview, and let's see how this thing looks like in our camera. First, I'm going to have to adjust the position because right now it is just way out of the camera view. I'm going to rotate this thing, move this thing just about there. Yeah, it's pretty huge as compared to the scale of the scene. So I'm going to bring this thing down just about there, bring this thing closer, and maybe I should scale this further down and then place it just about there. I'm gonna bring this up. I'm gonna bring this thing up on Z. Yeah, I think it's still pretty huge. So I'm gonna bring this thing down here. Um, Maybe I should just bring this thing fractionally closer and place this thing just about there. Right here, maybe. Let me change this to local access and place this thing just about there. Maybe I should rotate this thing like so and scale it down. Mm, not sure. Uh, Maybe I should scale this thing up on Z. And then move this thing right here. I'm not really sure about this. I'm gonna have to move this thing. place it here. Maybe fractionally bring this thing up on Z. Yeah, I think now it looks good. I'm gonna move this thing right here. Let's see. Yeah, I think it looks good. Of course we can tweak it later as well, but yeah, I think it looks good and the scene already looks so much better. I'm gonna go back into my content browser and go back into the mission to my Minerva folder. I'm gonna open this actors folder and let's see what we can do in here. Okay. Um, Maybe let's try this one. I'm gonna open up this one, enlarge this window, and go into the viewport. And yeah, I think we can use this one. Yeah, let's try this thing. I'm gonna close this thing and go and yeah, let's come in here and bring this into the scene. Just about there, okay? And slightly here. Maybe just about there. I'm gonna bring this thing up on Z. And place it just about there. Uh, yeah, I think the problem in here is that our camera is perhaps a little bit crooked, if that's the right word. So I'm gonna select my camera and let's see. I'm gonna go into my sequencer, unlock this thing, and I'm gonna open up rotation. Yeah, I think perhaps 3.5 degrees is a little bit too much. So I'm just gonna decrease this number. Uh, it's gonna be pretty difficult to control this thing from here. So let's try this from here. I'm gonna change this to, yeah, let's keep this thing at local. And let's see, maybe just a little bit more. I think I'm gonna have to manually type in the value to get this thing really accurate. Let's try this again, 1.3, perhaps 1.2, maybe 1.1, 1.15. Yeah, I think maybe 1.15. Let's try it. 1 point. Maybe let's try 1.2. Yeah, I think 1.5 looks good. I think I should set this to 0. Okay. Now I'm going to select these two keyframes and press Ctrl C on the keyboard to copy them. And then I'm going to move to frame number 18, press Ctrl V, and then move to frame number 55 and then press Ctrl V again. Okay. Yeah, I think now it looks good. I'm going to save everything in here. I'm going to now lock the sequencer and I'm going to go back into the content drawer. Let me adjust these windows. And I think I'm going to have to adjust these assets again. So I'm going to select this one and let's see what we can do in here. I'm going to hide this one. And let's bring this thing a little bit closer. Maybe I should first scale this thing up. So I'm going to scale this to just about there. Move this thing on X. Maybe I should move this a little bit back. And I'm going to rotate this and let's see. Maybe place it here, perhaps a little bit back here. Maybe I should bring this thing down on Z and maybe fractionally scale this thing up. I'm gonna move this thing on X. Maybe bring this thing down on Z. I don't know. Let's try. I'm gonna lock this and let's try 0.55. And I'm gonna move this thing, place it just about there. Bring this thing down on Z. Maybe I should rotate this just a little bit more. Perhaps a little bit over here. Yeah, I think it looks good. Maybe just a little bit more. Maybe scale this up fractionally. 0.6. I'm gonna move this thing a little bit back. Yeah, I think it looks good. Okay, so now I'm gonna press Control H once again, and it's gonna unhide everything in my scene. So I'm gonna select landscape, hide it, and let's now adjust the position of this one. Maybe I should scale this thing. I think the rotation is fine. I just need to scale up this thing. I'm gonna switch back to world space and place it just about there. Okay. Maybe just a little bit back on Z and just about there. Yeah. Let's scale this up. Okay. There we go. Maybe just a little here. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I think it looks good. Maybe just a little bit more on X. Okay. So yeah, I think it looks good. Let's see how this thing looks like in our animation. I think I'm gonna select this mountain in here and move this thing up on Z, place it, and place this thing just about there. There we go. Yeah, now it looks a lot better. We perhaps move this thing a little bit on X as well. I think there's a little bit of difference between the contrast of this one and this one as well. So what I'm going to do in here is to select this one, open up the material instance, and maybe fractionally bring down the contrast and increase the brightness. Let's see how this looks like. Yeah, I think now it looks a lot better. Perhaps drop the contrast just a little bit more. Um, yeah, maybe just a little bit of brightness. Yeah, I think it looks good. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna close this one and let's see how this thing looks like in our animation. Yeah, I think it looks pretty good. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna save everything and let's go back into the content browser and place another asset over here. Okay. Let's see what we can find in here. Let's open up this one. I'm gonna go into the viewport and as you can see, we have a really high quality and good looking asset in here as well. But I'm not gonna use this one because it's a pretty big area to cover. Okay. So I'm gonna open up this one, go into the viewport, and I think I can use this one. Yeah, this one looks good. I'm gonna close this window and let's bring this thing right here. And I'm gonna rotate this on Z and move this thing here. Move this thing on Y. Yeah, we're gonna have to scale this down as well. So let's scale this thing down. I'm gonna rotate this thing on Z. Let me move the sequencer just about there. And I'm gonna rotate it like so. Move this thing on X. And then bring this thing up on Z. I'm gonna rotate it just like that, maybe. Move it on X. Perhaps scale it up to just about there. Okay. Um, let's try this the other way around. Yeah, no. Maybe just like this. Maybe just about there. Yeah. Let's bring this thing down on Z and place it just about there. I'm gonna move this thing on X. And yeah, I think it looks good. Okay. Let's see how this looks like in our animation. Yeah, I think it looks good. Let's play this. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Okay. I'm gonna save everything again and let's bring in a couple of more assets and call it a day. Okay, I'm gonna go back into content browser and let's find something to place on this surface. Let's see. Maybe we can use this one and place it just about there. Let's scale this thing down. Not there. I'm not gonna put this thing here. Maybe just about there. Um, or I don't know. No, I don't think I should put this thing here. I'm gonna delete this. Let's try some other asset. Let's try this one instead. And I'm gonna bring this thing out into the scene. And it's pretty gigantic, so I'm gonna have to scale this thing down to maybe just about there. And then I'm gonna place And then I'm gonna rotate this thing on Z, like so. And let's move back this clay head. And I'm gonna place this thing just about there. Maybe scale this down a little bit more. I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, I think that looks good. Mm, let's see. Yeah, I think this looks good. Maybe I should move this thing on X. I don't know. Yeah, I think it looks good this way. Okay. Maybe I should scale this thing up on scale this thing fractionally. Sorry, not scale down this thing, scale this thing up. Let's see how this looks like. No, I'm gonna keep that scale. Okay. So I'm gonna save everything and let's go back into the content browser and you know what? Let's try this asset that we brought in beforehand. I'm gonna drag this into the scene and I'm gonna rotate this thing and let's find a perfect spot for this thing. I'm gonna move this thing on right. Perhaps rotate this thing, maybe like so. I don't know. Yeah, we're gonna have to scale this thing down, of course. Let's see. Yeah, I think it looks pretty good at this point. Let's see. Let me save everything so that I don't lose any progress if Unreal Engine crashes for some reason because I'm running out of VRAM. So this is how you can bring in different assets into the scene and then place them accordingly. One tip that I'd like to share in here is that please don't place assets all over the scene. Remember that your subject is this character, okay? These assets in the background are here to give your scene just a little bit of push. They are not the subject of this shot. Your character is the subject of this shot. So please don't overdo this in any way and only place enough assets to give your shot a little bit of push. Now, before I end this lesson, one more thing that I'd like to share in here is that I didn't just open up this project and then randomly place these assets exactly where they should be. I tried between different assets, I tried between different locations, rotations, different scaling values, and then after spending some time, the scene began to look a little bit better. So what I want you to do in here is that I want you to come out of your comfort zone, try between different assets, try between different rotations and location values, and then figure out how you can adjust these assets to enhance your shot. Okay. So that's it for this lesson. And in the next lesson, we're going to bring in some more assets into the scene, perhaps a few mountains behind this thing. So I'll see you guys in the next one.